Hi, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Laura. Hi, hello, welcome. Today we are here to talk all things pan those eyeshadows related. I'm very excited for this update. It's not my most glorious update, but it's still an exciting update nonetheless. But first, I just want to give credit to 𝙍𝙬 𝙍𝙬 for creating the concept of this project. She no longer posts here on YouTube. However, I always have her channel linked down in the description box below. How she originally created this project is how I'm doing my project this year. But so many people have changed the project to fit with their collection and do a completely random based project. However, mine, I randomly select the palette or group of singles to choose from, and then I'm hand selecting a shade out of either that palette or the collection of single shadows kind of thing. Also, I'm doing one shade in this project, Lainey from Makeup with Lainey's style, and her style is doing a prompt-based project, and we know I love a prompt-based project over on this channel, but that is going to be one shade from the assortment of shades is going to be from Lainey's style. Also, I do want to give credit to this eye look. I watched Leah Embo's recent Pan Those Eyeshadows, and she posted a picture of a lavender eye with the dragon fruit palette. She's panning a shade in the dragon fruit palette, and I own it, and I was really inspired. So I did a look very similar to, this whole look is very Leah inspired from this, which I literally yoinked the idea from her video, a lavender eye with a yellow inner corner. First thing, I want to just show you my color story that we were working with for the past month. It was a very disjointed, very kind of random color story in my opinion. We have a matte brown, a very red toned brown, a brown shimmer, a purple duochrome, a matte green, and a red bronze multi-chrome. So I swatched these shades out in the order that they were rolled in, so in the order that we're going to talk about them. So this top shade here is the shade Kismet. It's a single eyeshadow here. It's from Bare Minerals. This has been in the project for a couple months now, and I'm going to just roll the clips on what this was looking like because I never show until I show those. And after 16 uses the past month, I was able to hit pan in this shade. And I ended up hitting the most minuscule pan yesterday. So I used it in the look I'd have today. It's surprising that it's in this look today, but it is in this look I'm wearing. And that was what let me expand the pan to this also minuscule little pan. But I'm happy that I hit pan in this shade. It took me a lot longer than I expected this shade to take me because this is a shade that I repanned from its original packaging into this one. Anything that I press, I assume that it's just going to be very easy to hit pan in. This was I used this so much and a lot of it anytime I used it. I used the same style brush, it a little domed crease brush, and would apply all just to the outer corner. Sometimes I did a halo eye. I would put it on the lower lash line. I use this so often, and I'm so surprised that it took so long to hit pan in this. Then moving down, we have that second shade, which is just the bronze kind of neutral shimmer. And it actually comes from my Bare Necessities palette by ColourPop, but since I'm working on a shade in my deck of panning in this, I just removed the pan and put it in here. I've also been low-key panning this shade up here. That shade constantly shatters, it's already shattered again for the third time this year. Regardless, this is the shade that I am working on in this project. This is Bare Necessities Prefix, not Get Crackin'. So that is from the Bare Necessities palette, and I really haven't reached for it a whole lot. I'm not going to lie. I've reached for it 4 times in the course of the past month. However, with going back to an office job, I do wear this, and I can foresee myself wearing this a lot more often. I've just been focusing, or I was focusing on a different shade, trying to get usage in. Something that I'm kind of regretting rolling into this project, but not because it's not pretty. I haven't been reaching for it. And that's that third shade in. That is the Purple Duochrome shade. And that shade comes from my Sugar Drizzle Pickle palette. I am wearing the shade on like the outer, I wouldn't say outer third, but like the outer portion of my eye look definitely has that shade on it. I've worn it as an eyeliner. I did feature this in one of, maybe that was last month when I did a 5 days of mint. This is what that shade Pickle Juice is looking like today. I mean, I've definitely used it, but I'm just struggling. I'm not reaching for shades like that too often. And part of me really wants to kind of trade it for one of the other shimmers because I can wear green shimmers as like a neutral look, and I find it to be very neutral because it just kind of complements and goes with my eye color. So I'm finding it a little challenging to reach for Pickle Juice, and I knew it was going to be a challenge when I rolled it in, but I'm fine leaving this palette out on my desk because I like green eyeshadows. But I do find myself not wanting to reach for this one when I open this palette. I'm like, ooh, these shades are so pretty, and then I'm like, well, I'm using this one, so this one's staying in. Another shade that I have been struggling with is another single. It's this one here that's backwards. This is Luxie Beauty Matcha. This is a beautiful matte dark green, and it's so pretty. But when I use it as like an actual eyeshadow, it can be a little bit patchy. But this is what that shade is looking like after 11 uses. So there is a dip in there. It was prior usage for the most part, but I think you can see like there's a little like line almost. I've been using it as an eyeliner. I think I'm just going to declutter this now because I don't want to exert the energy in trying to hit pan on this when it's not performing the way that it used to, and I'm probably going to be decluttering this at the end of the year because I know that it doesn't perform. So I'm not going to waste the energy on it. That means we get to roll 2 shades into this project so far, but we do have one last shade to talk about. And that comes from my Adept Plain Jane Remastered palette. The shade that I picked is definitely an out of my comfort zone shade. It's a deep based multi-chrome, and it's a red multi-chrome. I reached for this shade 10 times this month, which I don't even know if I had this in. This might be a new roll-in. I don't remember. But this is what that shade is looking like today. It's the shade ACI 2. It definitely has a dip in the pan because I use a very similar brush every time I use this shade. I will either use it on a brush like this, that domed kind of one that we talked about, Kismet, because I'll use it on the lower lash line. But I've been using this little like weird liner brush. It's bent because it's stored face like that because it's a double-sided brush. So I store it this way because I don't care about this brush as much. But this is the brush that I've been using with it because I can fit it into my lower lash line pretty decently. So I'll just grab a bit of product and then tuck it right on the lash line, and then I blend it out with something, or I just flip the brush over and blend it out. Now that's not going to look too weird in this look because this look does have I just hit pan in this. This was not going to be a rollout, but now it is. That's cool. So I just hit the tiniest little pan in that shade. I really wasn't expecting this to be a rollout, but hey, I'm going to take it as a rollout. So that's super exciting. So I am going to continue to use this and have this palette out on my desk. I'll see if I can expand the pan a bit in this one. So you'll have to check my next No Pan Left Behind update. Hopefully I will make some actual progress on it and not just like table it, you know? But that is super exciting. I really was not expecting that. Now, I do want to make a little bit of a rule where I always want to have a single eyeshadow in the rotation because I think that is just going to help me get more use out of my single shadows. So I'm just going to, like, if we need to, I'm just going to re-roll until I get a single, and we'll take the last shade and that won't roll in until I roll a single, if that makes sense. If I roll a single as like the first shade, then it doesn't matter. If it looks like I had to change my shirt, I did. I broke the sleeve, and so now we had to change. Not that you can see much because it's a tank, like a very spaghetti strap, but regardless. I took a moment and I actually inputted my singles brands into its own tiny decision wheel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to roll for 3, but if none of the 3 is a single, my last roll is going to be void, and I'm going to roll from my singles list. This is just, I'm hoping, because the list is getting smaller of palettes that I can use, because I'm trying to use every palette in this project. So let's just go ahead and see. You never know. You never know. The Natasha Denona Purple Blue palette. All right, then see, look at that. We got e.l.f. singles, and I think I only have one single from e.l.f. still as a viable option. But the last one, I just used this palette today. That's where my mats came from. So I'm actually quite excited for these picks. So the first new shade we rolled in comes from my Kaleidos Lunar Lavender palette. These Futurism palettes are no longer sold, but I have them. I'm going to use them. So there is 6 shades in this palette. Beautiful, beautiful palette. My heart tells me to go with the shimmer, but I want to give myself a little bit more focus on these 2 shimmers. So I'm going in with this shade here called Wisteria. I think rolling in a matte from this palette, the matte's going to take a long time to use. I'm not going to lie. The mattes from Kaleidos are pretty beautiful. They're a beautiful formula. They're not very powdery though. They feel very soft, but they're not powdery. I didn't even swatch it, duh. So it's just a matte, cool toned lavender shade. Give it one more go. It's really beautiful. I think it'll pair well with pickle juice up here. It'll blend out the shade really well. I can layer pickle juice on top of it, and I think it'll get some good use out of it. The goal is to hit pan. Why do I roll these challenging matte shades in? I ask myself. I don't know. I'm just here for the ride. So that's rolling in. Next, we rolled in our single shade. Very happy that we rolled a single shade and we didn't have to re-roll and re-roll. But that is going to be this guy here. It was an e.l.f. shade that I repanned from the Rosewater Quad. This is the only shade I have left in the Rosewater Quad that doesn't have pan. I already have a little bit of a dip in it. I don't know if you'll be able to tell that I have a bit of a dip in it. Again, because it's pretty darn shallow in the pan. So I'm going to swatch it out. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful inner corner, very blinding kind of shade. It's going to pair well with Prefix. It's going to pair well with the lavender. Maybe I want to do like a lavender with like a super bright neutral all over the lid. The last one we rolled was this big heifer, as I love to call these 28 pan Natasha Denona palettes. My big heifers. So this is the purple blue palette. Definitely the one that has the most usage in it, but not because I like it the most. I force myself to use the purple blue one because the green brown one's my favorite. And I always save the best for last. This was the challenge for me. Everything else, I was like, okay, cool. I know what this. I took 5 minutes picking a shade just from this palette alone. Maybe a little more than 5 minutes. But I am going with something that's very out of my comfort zone. Does anyone have a guess with which shade I would go with? I keep going back and forth like between the two that I'm like, maybe it was between these 2 blues because I don't use the blues nearly enough. And blue is a shade that I struggle reaching for. Purples used to be my nervous shade where I didn't want to reach for them. So out of the 2, I feel like this one was definitely more like summer good for like the transition. This kind of shade tends to go well with orangey kind of shades. And really I thought that this shade would go well with Prefix, that first shade. And we can do like, sometimes when I wear a teal like this and like a bronze that's like that, I think it just looks like Jasmine from Aladdin. So that is what I'm going to roll in. It is, it's bright. its summary. Clearly, there's not that many matte shades in here, so it gives me a lot of flexibility with other palettes in my collection, which always makes me excited. But that is it for this update, for my August update of my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan. Don't forget to check out Lainey and Alexi's channels linked down below. Search the hashtag Pan Those Eyeshadows here on YouTube, on Instagram, anywhere that people put content out. And I'm sure you will find boatloads of content for your viewing pleasure if you are into seeing used and abused makeup. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're staying healthy, sane, and safe. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!